drive German intellectuals like him, alarmed by the rise of fascism, into exile. Barely a decade later, illuminated by the same electric lights in the banquet hall at the Orsay Hotel, the Nazis in Grosse Paris would be celebrating Adolf Hitler's birthday. The road that keeps going and going and never ends. In the Orsay train station, that dreary, dreadful refrain was what welcomed home the returning prisoners of war, the survivors of the camps, the escapees from the stalags. 1945. The war is over.
Orsay. Outside the center, the wives of the war prisoners are clotted together in a compact mass. White barriers separate them from the prisoners. They're not allowed to go into the center. A lot of people who aren't expecting anyone also come to the Orsay train station to watch the spectacle, the arrival of the prisoners of war, the way the women are waiting for them and everything else, just to see what's going on. This may never happen again. The women yell, they clap their hands, they call out the names of the German towns or stalag numbers. I have a hard time working. All these names I'm recording down are never his. Every 5 minutes I want to break it off, put down the pencil, never ask for any news again, leave the center and never come back. At about 2 in the afternoon, I go and ask what time the convoy from Weimar arrives.
Winter, 1954. The only people waiting in the train station's now deserted waiting rooms were the most down and out in Paris.
Une femme vient de mourir gelée. Il faut que ce soir même, dans toutes les villes de France, des pancartes s'accrochent sous une lumière dans la nuit où l'on lise. C'est simplement toi qui souffres, qui que tu sois, entre, dors, mange, reprends espoir, ici on t'aime.
Orsay, in response to the distress call put out by Abbé Pierre, became a new terminus filled with hope and generosity. It took in and returned to the stream of life everyone whom poverty and the cold had left by the wayside. Suitcases were packed with warm clothing and blankets, but they would no longer be traveling. The fabulous traveling machine from the World's Fair had become a mere shadow of its former self. Its trains had stopped running. Only one platform remained, below, for the few suburban lines still in service. The station and its hotel were awaiting a verdict that could very well be a death sentence. There was talk of a grandiose project, a futuristic luxury hotel overlooking the river, 1,000 rooms, a concrete behemoth that Le Corbusier had gone as far as to sketch. But Orsay held out, resisted with all its might, remained faithful to what it was, to the roots of its past. Its walls no longer echoed with announcements of arrivals and departures, but beneath the improvised marquee of the Renault Barreau Company, Orsay dared to resist through the magic of theater.
Il y avait du nouveau en fabriquant ce théâtre d'Orsay, c'est que nous le fabriquions entièrement. N'est-ce pas? Nous n'étions pas chez les autres, nous étions chez nous et nous fabriquions notre théâtre.
Le fait que ce soit une gare ne nous gêne pas parce que chaque représentation est un voyage. À heure fixe, nous partons tous les soirs, on appareille, on voyage et pendant 2h30, on entraîne les publics à un voyage dans l'imagination et dans le rêve.
In 1973, the President of France, Georges Pompidou, pledged to preserve the railway station and its hotel from destruction. 1 year later, his successor, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, classified Orsay as a historical monument. the building was saved, and the idea of a 19th century museum could finally take root in this structure of stone and iron.
It seems quite unimaginable now, but when I came here it was completely empty, and there was a damp smell of cement, of a train station on a rainy day. So it was a very strange atmosphere. In the room upstairs we had put the plans submitted by the 3 different architects up on the wall. The one that stood out was designed by an architect named Kolbok. In the end, that was the project that was chosen, and the idea was, how shall I put it, to renovate the existing architecture without changing it. The facades would be preserved on the outside, and the space on the inside would be reorganized, but the building itself would remain.
Proposer une architecture qui, tout en étant contemporaine dans son vocabulaire et ses matériaux, se glisse à l'intérieur de la gare, soit une espèce de prolongement presque naturel de la création de la Loue.
So the project had been validated, and work began in 1979. But there was still no design for the interior. I was at a European Council meeting in Venice, and that evening the city and the Italian government held a dinner for us in a beautifully decorated Venetian palace. As we were leaving, I said to the Prime Minister, Mr. Cossiga, "It's magnificent. Who designed it?" "An Italian decorator who's quite well known," he said. "She works in Milan and Venice." He told me her name was Gai Olenti. So the interior design originated in Venice, at a dinner, and with someone who in fact was unknown in France.
On a plutôt travaillé à créer les différences entre un espace et l'autre plutôt que les mettre tout dans le même niveau architectural, etc. Parce que je crois qu'un musée, quand il est grand comme le musée d'Orsay, on doit donner aux visiteurs l'énergie de le visiter. Et c'est à travers la découverte de l'espace et des œuvres ensemble qu'on peut avoir cette énergie.
I thought her approach was very interesting, but I didn't want it to be too grandiose. So I said to the Minister of Culture, "Listen, try to tell Gai Olenti that it shouldn't be too massive. There needs to be a sense of lightness, at least a little bit." And he said to me, "That's not going to be easy because she's very decided, and I'm not sure I can change her mind." "She doesn't have to change everything," I told him. "Just add a little more movement, make it a little lighter." And that's what she did.
En Italie, il n'y a pas le mot aménagement, vous savez. On parle d'architecture intérieure. Et c'est de cette façon que nous avons commencé à collaborer avec les architectes. Et ça, évidemment, donne certaines ambiguïtés. Parce qu'ici, nous sommes dans un intérieur dans lequel il faut travailler à l'intérieur de l'intérieur. Mais la dimension de tout ça, c'est une dimension extérieure, où se fermer, où s'arrêter à l'intérieur et à l'extérieur.
On est là dans la galerie de l'impressionnisme, enfin d'épanouissement de l'impressionnisme. On est en plein 74, 80, Renoir, Monet, Sisley, Pissarro, un peu ce qui est à l'exposition actuellement du paysage impressionniste. Ici, là-bas, vous aurez le Moulin de la Galette, on sait déjà où il sera. Et aussitôt après, il y aura Renoir, Monet, Degas. Donc ce sera
Van Gogh, Cézanne.
Et Van Gogh, Cézanne jusqu'au bout.
C'était la première fois.
It was the first time I'd ever worked on such a theme. But any space can be analyzed in a geometrical or geographical way. That is, in which we put aside history in order to understand the space itself. So the main lines, which were symmetrical or not symmetrical, the octagonals, all of that provided a sort of grid that was rooted in the monument, which enabled us to say, yes, it's there, it's in the ground. It's very hard to compare a train station and a museum because they're so different. In a train station, people come and go. They don't stay. In a museum, it's the opposite. People should linger, walk around, try to understand the works of art. They might want to step back or turn around. You visit the place with your head and not simply with the energy of your body. And that constitutes a major difference. So, the idea of space and time was very important. In other words, the entire design took into consideration the reality of the train station.
Nous avons été un peu aveugles au début, c'est-à-dire que nous avons conçu un musée abstrait sans tenir compte du bâtiment, et que de leur côté, les architectes ont conçu le contraire, ça a été l'inverse. Eux ont conçu leur architecture sans connaître les collections. Alors pendant quelques semaines, pendant quelques mois même, nous nous sommes rencontrés, les architectes et nous, pour imaginer quels étaient les parcours possibles, comment intégrer les collections idéales, encore une fois, parce que certaines ne sont pas encore là, les collections à l'intérieur du bâtiment.
Then we began thinking about the museum's program, the beginning and ending dates. The cutoff was quite clear, right before the beginning of Fauvism, so up until 1905, at least for painting, a little later for the decorative arts. As for what the starting date would be, I remember walking President Giscard d'Estaing back to his car after he had come to visit the construction site. And he asked me, "So where are you going to put Delacroix's Liberty Leading the People?" I said to him, "Mr. President, we aren't going to put it anywhere." "What? It dates from 1830. It's a symbol of the 19th century." It's true that things weren't very clear because the museum was, at one point, called the Museum of the 19th Century. That made us really think about the issue, and it seemed to us that the years 1848 to 1850 marked a genuine turning point for the century. There was a movement in Europe that was wide-ranging and not only political, that indicated a certain break with the past. So we made the decision and redid the program, although we did not, in the end, exclude all of the romantics.